Hey adventurers, so today is going to be my wrap up for the month of June 2026. And I read, what was it, 6 books? 7 books. I read 7 books in June, or finished 7 books in June. I think I read them all in basically in June. So anyways, yeah, that's good. I made some good progress in June with what I was reading. I also read pretty varied, genre-wise and stuff in June, and that is due to there was a readathon going on called the Dungeons and Book Dragons readathon. This was hosted by or put on by Leah Reads, I believe is her Instagram handle. So that was fun. I was just kind of participating in it. Whatever books I did kind of tailor my books in order to try and hit the prompts, but it wasn't specific. They were still books that I was interested in reading for one reason or another. So anyways, let's go through these and see what I read. I'm not going to talk about the prompts any further other than to say that is the explanation for some of my choices this month. Books that I normally wouldn't have read. All right, the first one I had that I finished in June was Seeking Persephone. I believe this is by Sarah M. Eden, if I remember correctly. This is a romance. This is, it's clean, which I really appreciate. And contrary to maybe expectations, I don't actually dislike the romance or the romance genre. I just don't read it because most of what's out there is inappropriate, and I don't want to read that. I don't like inappropriate adult content in my books or in my movies or anything like that, and so I tend to avoid those. This one wasn't one. This is kind of, it's not an Amish romance, but it's a Christian romance of some sort, or I think the author might be Mormon. I haven't looked into that very much, but so it comes from a slightly different perspective, and it's definitely more clean than really anything else in the genre that I was expecting, and it's more akin to like the Amish romances than anything else. So anyways, I read that one. The reason why I picked it up though actually is I did have good reasons for it, or I did have reasons for it beyond just needing a book that met the romance genre prompt or whatever. And that was that this was recently adapted into a short, I think it's a limited series, I'm not sure, but into a series, and it stars the actress who just played Vin at the recent World Hoppers Ball that Sanderson has been putting on the past couple of years. And so I was interested in seeing it, and I'm always interested in adaptations and seeing different people act and how things are taken and why they're done the way that they are. And so that's, as an actor and as a storyteller, that was something that I was interested in. I wanted to read the book to see if maybe I wanted to watch the series or whatever. And so yeah, I was intrigued by it for that means, and so it was an easy choice for me in that regard. As far as the book goes, this was almost my book of the month, to be honest. I had a very good time with it. It's one of my, it was lighthearted fun. I shouldn't say lighthearted because it deals with some very human things going on within this story, but it was just also, I just had a good time listening to it. I didn't really need to pay too close attention. I could just kind of allow it to exist and be what it was, and that ended up being really enjoyable to me. So I had a good time with this story overall. Next one I read was Howling Dark by Christopher Rocchio. This is the second book in his Sun Eater series, and this is one where I actually feel like it's a step down from book one. Not significantly, it's still a very good book. There's still a lot of really cool stuff going on in it. It just didn't fit my tastes as precisely as the first book did, and that's fine. I still expect to love the rest of the series as I continue going through it, and I have no doubt that I will. This second book was still a really good book. It just wasn't quite as perfect for me as the first one was. There's some really cool stuff going on. We get more fleshing out of the world. We get to see the universe explodes in size, and we're understanding more things, and we're seeing new pieces of things fall into place and how they fit into the rest of the world, and we're seeing Hadrian's story continue on. I still like Hadrian as a character. I think that he's an interesting lead for this series. I think that the similarities in ages, even though he's at this point surpassed my age. In the first book he was younger than me, in the second book he's now older than me, but whatever, that's fine. I still think that that's an interesting character to play with and an age range to play with for an author, and I think that's fun to read. So lots of good stuff about Howling Dark. It just also wasn't my favorite. It wasn't as good in my opinion as book one was. Then I listened to Castle of Wizardry by David Eddings. This is book 4 of the Belgariad, so I'm consistently being able to continue working my way through the Belgariad. This is really good. I'm glad to be doing this. I really love this book. I didn't have much in the way of bad things to say about this one. I haven't had bad things to say about any of them other than in book 3 I was like, okay, I'm starting to see a pattern appearing in this book, and I suspect that we'll continue seeing that. We didn't actually. He changed up the pattern, and I appreciate that. Basically, we don't end this book with a duel with another magic user, and so I appreciate that. That was good. Anyways, this was fun. As always, lots of new things going on. We get new character, or we get character development, I should say, and the pieces are falling into place from the prophecies. The chosen one, all the tropes are kind of coming together into their manifestation for this final confrontation, which I believe is in book 5. So yeah, we're in a good place with it. I'm enjoying what's going on. I thought that it was a good continuation of the series, and we really did a good job at moving the series forward into the next, in preparation for the finale. The Manchurian Candidate by Richard Condon is the next book that I listened to. I like the thriller genre a lot. I think that thrillers are especially in film form, I think they're one of the most interesting to watch because it's just really engaging, and you get to ask yourself questions as the story is progressing, and it's just fun for me to watch them or read them. This one, however, was not my favorite, and this is largely due to the fact that I just didn't care what was going on, and there was so much, again, inappropriate adult content that I just was like, this is not my type of story at all. I don't want to be listening to this. I don't want to be reading it. I don't want to continue with the book. But I was also interested enough in the story and in this idea, because I do like the idea of like a brainwashed soldier who has infiltrated, I can't say that word, that's a hard word, infiltrated, essentially the US, and is in a position where he can wreak a lot of havoc. And that's a really interesting premise to me. I like the premise, I just didn't feel like the execution was particularly interesting if you removed the sexual content, then the rest of the story would have been a lot better, but that just dropped it down in my opinion and made me enjoy it so much less than it could have been. And that's unfortunate. I think on Goodreads I just put it at a 3-star, which is average. That's nothing fantastic, nothing terrible, because I was invested enough to keep going, but I wasn't really that interested in it overall. Then I listened to Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, I believe it is. I believe it's Emily, not Charlotte Bronte. I think I accidentally submitted it as Charlotte Bronte for one of the times, and that's fine. Emily Bronte, I believe, is the author of Wuthering Heights, and this is one where I have heard about it all my life. I've said, oh, this is a classic that I need to read all my life, and I had never read it, and so I finally sat down and was like, okay, let's do this one. It met several of the prompts that I was looking for, so I figured, okay, that's a good option, and I listened to it and I enjoyed it. I thought that it was a good story. It's not a romance. That's not how it should be viewed, and I don't really have a whole lot of of opinions that I feel are drastically different than what I hear other people say about it, as is the case with my thoughts on Frankenstein. I feel like my thoughts on Frankenstein are actually kind of unique. However, this is very much gothic fiction, and that's enjoyable. It's something new to me that I'm not super well versed in, but it kind of is a fun subgenre to explore. I had a good time with it, for sure. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about Wuthering Heights at the moment. I will have a review at whatever point I get to my review. I'm so far behind on writing and filming reviews at the moment that I'm starting to stress about it a little bit again. I need to dedicate some time to writing and filming reviews. Anyways, that's fine. Let's move on. The next one that I finished was Tanner's Place by Caleb Clarke. I was sent an ARC for this one. I don't think it's technically an ARC because it's not an advanced rated copy because the book's out, so I guess I was sent an ebook of this, is how I should phrase that. I was sent an ebook of this, and I thought that it sounded very interesting, the premise of it, and the way that Clarke described it. He did a video on his channel, which is Celebrity, I believe is his channel, and I watched that video, thought it was an interesting premise for a story, and I said, okay, I'm curious to try this out, and so he was kind enough to send me an an ebook of the book, and I read it, and I actually, it's not my, basically what I would say is that this book is not written for me as a reader. I'm not the target audience for this book, but I also really appreciate a lot of what he was doing with it. I thought he had a very good execution of his premise and of the themes that he was working with, and so yeah, enjoyed this book quite a bit. It's a little weird, a little creepy. It's definitely within the horror realm, and that comes through. It's like a mixture of horror and what's it, fae, so supernatural type stuff, and that's not terribly my thing, but it was fun to read and fun to see Clarke do to write the story and see what he was doing with it. So had a good time with it. Not my favorite book ever, but had a decent time with it. And then the last book that I read, and this one I don't have a standalone edition of, I just have it within this bind up. I read Jack London's White Fang. This, of course, is Tales of the North, which contains White Fang, son of the wolf, in the forests of the north. The men of 40 Mile, in a far country, the wisdom of the trail, the god of his fathers, all gold canyon, the sea wolf, the cruise and the dazzler, to repel borders, the man with the gash, the master of mystery, the great interrogation, grit of women, the wife of a king, the law of life, the white silence, the call of the wild. So it has a whole bunch of different Jack London stories contained within this. It's a beautiful leather-bound edition. It's a box set. Anyways, that's not important. I didn't read out of this. I love this book. It's absolutely beautiful. However, what I did do is I listened to the audiobook. I found a good audiobook on LibriVox. It was actually, it's a volunteer audiobook narrator, but the narrator did a really good job. I thought that he had a good voice for the setting, for the story that was being told, and he did a good job at narrating it. Anyways, good book. Really enjoyed this book. I didn't know what to expect going into this. I had read Call of the Wild back in high school sometime, and I enjoyed it then. I thought it was a good story then. White Fang is very different, but very good. It's very much a wolf in amongst humanity and trying to learn what he needs to do in order to survive in humanity and thrive as well. And that's a very different story. It's a very different take on this animal story type thing, but it was really good. I had a good time with it. I enjoyed the story. I thought that the character of White Fang is that wolf dog is a good character. I thought that the other characters we were meeting and spending time with were also good characters. I really don't have anything negative to say about White Fang. It's a good story. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about White Fang by Jack London, but that's another book that's the last book that I finished in the month of July. So anyways, that is my reads for July. Pretty wide variety, and I appreciate that. I think that that's fun to do. I like to try and branch out, read some classics, read some older things, try not just to read epic fantasy. And I read one epic fantasy well, two technically, I guess. It's high fantasy, it's not epic fantasy, but Tanner's Place is high fantasy. But yeah, so it's just good. I really enjoyed this. It was a good month, a month where I had an entire week that I read absolutely nothing. I was away at a conference, and so I didn't read anything that week at all. And I still managed to finish 7 books that I thought were all fairly strong books. It was a good reading month, varied month, and that's really all I have to say. It was surprising in a lot of ways. I thought up through most of the month, I was expecting Seeking Persephone to be my book of the month, which was kind of fun, kind of different for me, and it didn't end up being. But I'll when I do my short, you'll be able to see what book that ended up being my favorite of the month. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I'll close it there. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay warm.